welcome to Scrappin with Sheri and page 39. We are almost to March. I can't hardly believe it, but I will try a few new things in March. I want to do something related to Easter in March, maybe something a little more springy, but I am trying so hard to get this vacation trip done before we start traveling again. So we are back in Canyonlands National Park today and page 39 in the sketchbook. Now, this sketch says it's got room for 2 to 3 photos. There is a journaling area here, but I've already done journaling about this event, so I don't necessarily need more journaling here. And I'm going to try to get all 4 of these photos on this page, so we'll see how it goes. Now, when I looked at these pictures, one thing that my mind immediately went to was this leave nothing behind paper. And yeah, it's not exactly what my pictures are, but the colors are very similar. You see these mountains in the distance that are flat topped, very much like mine, and I like that. So I'm going to show us today how to use a really heavily patterned paper to make our pictures look good. I also pulled out this orangey color that is also in that collection. I don't necessarily need the back of this, but I do like this orange that matches the oranges in the mountains here. Now, something I have never shown you, but I was looking through it as I was thinking about this page, is my sort and stash binder. And I know a lot of you have ways that you organize your stickers, embellishments, and different things, but this is how I organize a lot of my creative supplies. I've got all of my peekaboo pockets in this front pocket here. I've got a few ABCs just in a little page protector that I stuck in there. I don't use ABCs a whole lot just because I do a lot of that on my silhouette. And then I've got these arranged in Roy G. Biv order, rainbow order. So reds are here. Oranges, if I had any, would be here. Yellows, pinks, all of those are here. And I've got the long protectors first and then the little square ones after that. Then I've got all of my greens. So everything that's green is in here. And this is one thing that I was thinking about, is that we might use this mountain. So I'm going to lay that out. And again, I've got the square protectors. And then I go into my blues. I love blues, so I have a lot of blues. And there was another border that I was thinking about, these clouds right here. I had even considered these blue mountains when I was thinking about it, but I really want to pull in a little of that green. But that's how I have my binder organized. That makes it so much easier for me to use my stash, because if I'm looking for greens or blues, I go straight to that color in my binder. And this is just a handy way for me to use my stash when I'm working. So our sketch has a couple of borders here. I think I may use just this layered one border, but it kind of looks like 2. And then I thought about the mountains along the bottom, but we're going to lay those to the side right now and see if we even use them. Now, when I look at this paper, I do love it, but they've got the whole top part of this covered up by 3 by 3 squares. I like the look of that. So I don't want to lose this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut off the bottom, transfer it to the top, and then cover that up. But I'm going to do it kind of in a backwards way. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my 3 by 3 squares that are going to go along the top. And I'm going to use a little of this orange for that. And then I pulled a little blue, a little green. And I found this that has little arrow shapes all over it that I really like. It's got some little brown arrows that kind of correspond. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer. And the only one that I have to cut completely is this one. And I'm making my design go up and down, which means I need to turn it sideways to cut my 3 inches off. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that all the way. Now, I hate wasting a full sheet of paper for something like that, but there will probably be a facing page for this, and I can use the leftovers to do my facing page because, you know, I like to tie in my colors. Now, this one, I'm just going to chop it off. Well, that ends a little bit. I'm just going to chop it off on the end because I'm not going to have enough left to do a full border later. So, it's okay that I'm cutting it here rather than cutting that long ways. And again, I'm cutting these in 3x3 squares for that right there, that little edge on the top. How do you feel about using up your stash? I don't know about you, but I get such great satisfaction from using up some leftover pieces, throwing some pieces away. It just makes me feel really good when my stash is manageable. And if you're not scrapbooking regularly and you're buying, your stash is probably not manageable. And to me, that just gets really overwhelming. So I try to keep mine at a level where I can actually enjoy what I'm working with. Now, I know this is going to be just so backwards, but I'm going to go ahead and put these squares here and then cut this off and transplant it to the top. And let me think about this just a second, because I do want to make sure that this is going to show. Yeah, maybe we better cut it off first. So let's just do that. We're going to give ourselves a little 1/2 inch leeway there. But part of that is covered. Let's go with 3. Now, if you're not using a heavily patterned paper, this is not an issue for you. This is only an issue for me because, you know, I can't take a regular piece of paper and just run with it. So this is how it's going to look. I'm just going to flip this over strictly so you can see the difference here. There is no magical anything about flipping it. It's just so that you can see the difference in the color as I'm putting these on here. So you can just kind of see where I'm headed. I know sometimes my methods do not make sense to anybody. Sometimes they don't even make sense to me, but it's okay. And because these are 3x3, 4 of these should fit perfectly right along the top of that. All right, so we've got our 4 colors. And I'm just going to weld this paper right back together. And I'm going to do that by adding my tape right along that seam line. And then we'll use our border to cover up where our tape has welded that. So in flipping the bottom to the top of that, I have managed to preserve the beauty of this paper and those mountains that I so love right there. Now you can tell I've got a little hanging off right there, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that just to make that evened up for me. My layered border is kind of causing it to stand up, but we have the bulk of the page done already. So they've also added a border along the bottom, and these mountains were what I was thinking about. Do they look exactly like those mountains? No. But my thought in doing this was it brings my green from here to here. And my photos have just hints of green ever so often that I wanted to keep in there. Like this one right here, I love the green in that. Now you see what's happening. As I'm adding all this stuff, I'm totally covering up that really pretty paper that I liked on the background. And I don't necessarily want to do that. So let's see how we can change this around a little bit to leave a little of that pretty paper. Now I like the colors I've got going. I like everything about it. I do have this picture of my husband out here with these big mountains in the distance. But I also have that as an up and down that I could use on a facing page. So I think for this particular photo, or for this particular page, I might just leave this part open just to show the beauty of that. Now, they have also shown these little halvesy mats cut to just go around the corners of these. Because of my sizing of my pictures, I didn't cut them down to little smaller pictures. Because of the sizing of my pictures, I want to leave these as is and not add those extra mats. Now, one thing that I can do here, and I'm gonna do that, is cut off part of that sky and just move that white strip down a little bit. And that will help those mountains in the top to show a little bit better. So let's cut off the sky. There are a good many variations in the colors, but the top of it is pretty much all the same color. Let me grab that tape, and we'll just tape this right back on there. And if you are extremely observant, you may notice that my white borders on these pictures are thinner than they normally are. And that's because I went ahead and cut those down ahead of time, just because I knew those white borders would be too much with this particular layout. Now, I'm not losing anything to slide these pictures underneath the mountains. When I slide that down, then that gives me a whole unobstructed view of those mountains in the background, and I really like that look. So that's where we're going with it. I'm going to tape this because I want it directly on the bottom. They show a different color on the bottom with a border on top of it. I feel like this double border, this layered border, adds that look without me having to add an extra layer of paper along the bottom. And I'm just going to take these photos. Actually, a really quick page once you get all your products picked out. I can see that this was something I would like to do again. The biggest problem is I don't have another one of these green mountain borders to make it go across as a 2-page spread. So I'm hoping that tomorrow's flip page, when I flip my page in my sketchbook, I'm hoping that next one will be a good one that I can use to correspond and make a matching page for this. I really enjoy doing that, just flipping the sketch and seeing what's next and then making it work with the pictures and the leftover papers and things I have. That's fun to me. And by cutting this photo down, we've preserved some of that beautiful paper. So I did get 3 pictures on this page, which is okay to me. I have preserved that beautiful paper background, so it helps me get the feel for everything I've got going on here. I don't necessarily need any journaling on this because it's on a page right before it. So this page is finished for all intents and purposes. Now, one thing I did want to do, because when you glance at this, it's hard to see. We're just such a tiny speck in the vastness of this beautiful picture. So I do want to put something there to kind of draw attention to the fact of how small we are. So we can do that a couple of different ways. You've seen me use this before, but I've got my little arrow punch. That was an incentive that came with some kit back in fall of 2023. I've also got my old circle punch, the double circle punch from Creative Memories. And I'm going to show you how I could use either one to make this work. So let me open the arrow punch. I was thinking I would go with the blue. I don't want it to stand out too much, but let's see what it looks like. It may just be too light. So I could use my little arrow right there. I'm thinking that fades so much, it might be too light to go with. Let's try this orangey color right here. Let me see if I've got another smaller scrap of that. Nope, this is it. So I could do something like that there. That does show up a little better. I don't really want to obstruct the whole view. So I could do this. That shows up pretty cute. Or with my double circle punch, I could punch my small circle first. And I'm punching from the underside. For the first one, you don't have to. For the second one, you do have to punch from the underside because you're lining it up to punch just this ring. And it's harder for me to punch there. The paper tension is much harder. But when you get it punched, you've got that cute little circle. And that's a good way to highlight something small in your photos if you've got this old circle punch. You know, it's good to pull out your old stuff every so often. I think I'm going to use that circle. I think it is less obtrusive than using the arrow. Let me use my repositionable adhesive. And we'll just stick that little circle on. And this page will be finished. All right, there we go. There's page 39 in our sketchbook, finished, ready to go in my album. And we'll be working on page 40 next time I see you, unless I decide to throw in something a little bit different. If you're tired of the sketches, please let me know that in the comments. If you want to see some new, different ideas, I'm good with that. The sketches to me are just helping me get this album completed. And I hope that that's what your goal is to get your albums completed, to get pages finished, to enjoy your pictures in a safe and meaningful way in your scrapbooks. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments. If you love the sketches, if you hate the sketches, let me know. We'll see what we can do to make that better for you. Until next time, happy scrapping.